The date, the 5th of May 2019. Cinco de Mayo. Today it'll be known as Cinco de Trio, as the San Diego Legion travel thousands of miles to a recently thawed out downtown Toronto and match up against our Toronto Arrows for their first ever home match at Lamport Stadium. San Diego have come for the win, but Toronto have come to defend their home. Who will take out this mighty battle between these two teams? Will it be the feisty boys from San Diego or our hometown heroes, the Toronto Arrows? It's time to find out right now.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Classics. This is episode 2, and I'm joined by my good friend and colleague, Scott Ledree. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing well, thanks, El, and I'm so excited about today to rewatch this match against the Legion from 2019. And we have 3 very special guests today. We have Pat Parfrey, 2-time Canadian World Cup representative and Arrows fullback centre. We have Aaron Carpenter, the most capped Canadian player in history and Arrows assistant coach. And then we also have Andrew Gatchran, the Arrows hooker and one of the real characters of the team, also a 2019 World Cup representative. And we're super excited to talk to all of them as we rewatch this game with the fans today.
What an all-star lineup we have today. This is fantastic, and I encourage everybody on Facebook Live, everybody on YouTube to send in your comments. Now today we're testing out our chat function on YouTube. Unfortunately, we can't do Facebook Live at the moment, but you can chat and have your name up there in lights on the YouTube chat, as you can see on the left of your screen. So we are going to move into, Scott, the introduction for our first guest here today.
Well, yes, Pat Parfrey, he's an Arrows centre, and as I said, he's a 2-time Canadian World Cup representative. He played at both the 2019 and represented Canada at the 2015 World Cup. This was the first game he started for the Toronto Arrows, and we're very excited to speak to him today.
Hi, Pat. How you doing?
Doing good, thanks. How about you guys?
Very, very good. Thanks for joining us. And we have your father as well. Please introduce him.
This is my dad, also Pat Parfrey. So we're conveniently enough staying in the same house. He's letting me bunk down in the basement, so he was able to hop on the call as well.
Well, welcome, Dr. Parfrey. Thanks for joining us.
Now, you guys are both in Newfoundland, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And so tell us a little bit about the rugby scene in Newfoundland. Can you talk to us about that?
You want to take this one? You're the rugby guy.
Well, rugby's been played properly in Newfoundland since the late 60s, and but it's pretty fragile and has a very good success rate despite the small number of players that play here. It gets pretty good representation on national teams. So last year we had Kieran Hearn and Patrick playing, so that's pretty good.
Wonderful.
And that's...
Sorry,
I'll go on. No, I was just saying, I mean, clearly you've both represented Canada, correct? So you mentioned some of those other players. Who are some of the other players that we might know have represented Canada at a national level from Newfoundland?
One of the main ones would probably be Rod Snow. He's probably would be one of the best player coming out of Newfoundland. He played a lot of professional rugby in Wales as well, and he's represented Canada numerous times, I believe, in the 60s. There's Kieran Hearn that we mentioned. Dad actually coached the team. He got a international cap with Ireland. And then, do you know more the other players? My brother has a cap, Kevin Parfrey. Sean O'Leary, who plays with the Baymen, same club as Kieran Hearn, has a cap. Then there's Frank Walsh, Peter Densmore, both have played for Canada as well. I'm not sure if I'm missing Andrew Fagan and Robert Wilson. There's a decent list, so I'm probably missing a few guys who have some caps here and there.
Carps might know more about it than we do, having played against them for so many years.
Well, thank you for joining us, gentlemen. We are going to move straight into this match, but first I am going to introduce a very special guest. You may know him as the owner of the Toronto Arrows, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Bill Webb. Hi, Bill. How you doing?
Doing well. Great to be here with you, Elliot and Scott.
Now, Bill, you know these two Patricks fairly well. You were the one who suggested we get the double team up there. Tell us about your relationship with both these guys.
Well, I've served with Dr. Parfrey on the board of Rugby Canada, and he's been a distinguished servant of the game in Canada here for a long time. And obviously, son Patrick playing for the Arrows for 2 years, and really bright, accomplished young man to boot, as well as being a really terrific rugby player. And Patrick had just an outstanding showing at the World Cup in Japan. So we're really proud to have him as part of the Arrows now and going forward.
And just so we can clarify for the two Patricks, is it okay if we'll call Patrick Junior Patty and Patrick Senior Patrick, perhaps for the sake of the game today? Does that work for you guys?
Sure.
That's fine.
Call me Pat.
All right, well, we'll get straight into it. Bill, this game was, tell us about the history behind this match, the first ever match for the Arrows at Lamport Stadium.
Well, we had beaten San Diego on the road in San Diego, and this was being our first match at Lamport. It was an exciting day, a really beautiful day for rugby, and we had a strong crowd, and it was a little bit of nerves, but it was turned out to be a very exciting day. And I remember that the post-match celebration was a really special one as well. So just a really great day of rugby at Lamport, and we look forward to the day when we'll be back there playing live games again. But this was a really special one.
And Bill, talk to us about how it was for the team playing at York early on in the 2019 season and then transitioning to a new home base at Lamport Stadium. What was that like for the Arrows organisation?
Yeah, well, we had to move a little bit of equipment down from uptown to downtown. We knew that Lamport is a very convenient location. There's a lot of young people in the neighborhood, so we were excited to get there. But I tell you, moving base from York to Lamport was relatively easy compared to having a very long road trip of 8 games on the road prior to that. So this was relatively easy. And our guys are pretty easygoing, very adaptable, as is our staff. And so this was a relatively smooth move, but we were really excited to get downtown and play a game in a second location. We want to expose as many people in the city to rugby as we can, and make it easy for people to get there. And so we were really excited about this day. It was we knew it was going to be an exciting one.
All right, well, let's get into it. First of all, I'm very excited that I actually got the chance to talk to the Major League Rugby Commissioner, George Killebrew, this week, and had a short chat with him. So we're just going to go to a short little interview. I've got a few parts to this one, but this is a great opportunity for fans who haven't heard from George before. He shines a little bit of light on the MLR, and he's taking the role. So we'll just hit that right now. Commissioner, what were your first impressions of the MLR and the sport of rugby?
Well, honestly, I was very impressed by the progress a young league like Major League Rugby had made, through their first kind of 2.5 seasons. You look at the history of professional leagues and going even with the big boys, NFL, NBA, what have you, there are just a lot of missteps you make very early, and this league is solid. It's grown in franchise numbers, from 7 to 9 to 12 and even more for the coming season. So I was very, very impressed. Honestly, I didn't know a lot about rugby. I'd been to one rugby match prior to accepting the job as the commissioner, but really, really enjoyed getting to know the sport. I'm still learning it, still learning the calls, and, everybody's around me trying to coach me up a little bit, but so far it's been really, really great.
What are your long-term visions for rugby in North America?
We have to really grow at grassroots. We got to, start selling out our stadiums. We've got to continue to get better media coverage. We got to continue our national television presence, and we have to add, some great commercial partners to our roster. And I think that's kind of a near-term kind of horizon for us.
Is a North American World Cup a chance in the next 10 years?
Sure, why not? Why not, right? I mean, I've been a part of some discussions already about 2027 and 2031. And, the U.S., if you look around the world, the United States and North America are kind of the most underdeveloped, as far as rugby goes. They're the biggest opportunity zones, if you will, for world rugby. And so, I think we have a great shot. I think we need to take care of some of our business at home. We've all read about some of the trials and tribulations of USA Rugby that they've gone through recently. And I think we have to demonstrate that we not only deserve it, but that we can handle it and make it a marquee event. I mean, look at what Japan went through in order for them to get it, and look at the success they had after a couple of World Cups previous. If you remember, they got beat as a country 100-0. So that's how quickly it can turn. And I think the United States and North America, Canada, what have you, would be a great place for the World Cup.
You made the tough decision to call off the 2020 MLR season earlier than many other professional sports. Can you walk us through that process and your commitment to honor the payment of the player salaries for the rest of 2020?
Sure. Honestly, it wasn't that hard a decision. The first decision we made is we took a 30-day hiatus, and we're all privy to all the news going on in sports. I was very much privy to what the NBA was going through because of my background and being so many years in that league, and was able to consult with some people, including Mark Cuban, who I used to work with. And he was getting really good intel. And I told him we were thinking about doing it. He said, pull the trigger. Said, I think it's a great decision. And then, I guess the silver linings that came out of that is that, the first one is we have 300 plus days until February 13th of 2021, which would be our opening weekend next year, in order to really work with our member teams on the basics of sports marketing, of how to sell tickets and how to sell sponsorships and how to market and how to have great broadcast agreements and how to be a great community citizen. And, and that this league's never had that runway. So that's the first silver lining. And then secondly, kudos really goes to our board of governors, because pretty much to a man, we made the decision to pay all the players their full contracts. And that did a lot of things. It did a lot for their opinion of Major League Rugby. And for our European players that went home, many of them had played in World Cups for their country. They're able to talk to their mates about how they were treated by Major League Rugby. And that has, really good waves of positivity towards what we're trying to do here in North America and Major League Rugby.
So there we are, some words from the commissioner.
It's another Major League Rugby Sunday.
I'm just impressed that you can get an interview with the MLR commissioner. How did that come about?
Lamport Stadium plays home to the Toronto Arrows, the favorite sons of Canada here in MLR. They welcome to town San Diego, a team that's looking to get back to the top of the MLR standing. Yesterday, inch-ahead Legion. Now the Legion with a win. As for individuals you want to keep an eye on, I know you're excited each and every Sunday about the captain Dan Moore.
It's hard to say too much about Dan Moore, the native son of Toronto, what he's been able to do last week. Set a major
I haven't personally met him, no, but it's good signs to see that all the players were getting paid and everything like that, and the league's so active in trying to make an effort to deal with, I guess, the COVID-19 situation.
Now, Paddy, I wanted to ask you, heading into this game, what were your thoughts on the opposition, the San Diego Legion?
Now, I believe they were at the top of the league. I knew they were a really good team, and going in, we basically needed to win all of our games the remainder of the season to make the playoffs, so every game was now important. So a little nervous. It was my first start with the Arrows, and I knew it was going to be a good team. So I was just excited to get out there.
Now, your position, Paddy, is typically fullback, but you play center in this game. What position?
Bounced around a couple positions. I played fly half and center and fullback, but my last couple starts with Canada, and I came off the bench with my last couple games at the Arrows at fullback.
I think the teams are just preparing here for the anthems before the game. Elle, what were your memories of this game?
It was a lovely day, actually. It was very, very similar to today's match, actually, which is fantastic. Very, very pretty day. Give me 1 second here while I work out some audio issues. I had a little bit of feedback there. Make sure, guys, you got some questions for Patrick. Send them through, and we will ask on your behalf. And you can also join us in the chat. Thanks to Brock from the team for taking care of that for us. Scott, you can lead us in. I'll just take care of this.
No, well, it's interesting to look at this lineup from 2019 as we contrast it against the game we covered from the Seawolves in 2020. So, for example, you see that Sam Malcolm in this game is playing number 10. He was playing number 15. We've got Patrick playing at number 12 and a really good side. But what really stands out to me about this San Diego Legion side is just the quality of some of the backs that they have. The two South Africans, the fly half Peterson, he's a very experienced player, and JP du Plessis is a real journeyman at number 12 as well. And then they have two USA Eagles representatives in their back line too. So a really exciting back line. Paddy, what is it like when you go up a team that clearly has a back line like that, and you're in the back line for your own team when you have to defend a lot of firepower from the other team?
Well, there's a big emphasis against this team was, I guess, defending well, and we did put in a good showing against them. So you got to kind of get excited. You can't be intimidated against a strong team like this. You got to get excited on defense to try to shut them down, because all in all, it's a competition, and you got to show up.
And a nice ritual that you have before games here. I think it's one of the Honda Junior riders comes out and delivers the game ball, although I note in this case the referee had a bit of issue getting it out of the backpack.
I love that moment. Right, you can go now. There is always a place on a rugby field for a kid on a motorbike, though. Yeah. If you are that kid and you would like to call in, let us know about your adventures out there in Lamport Stadium. Please feel free.
Now, Patrick, perhaps tell us where were you watching this game as you were watching Paddy play? Were you watching from Newfoundland? We just can't pick you up there, but that's all right. Maybe Paddy, where was your dad watching during this game?
I don't know. He might actually miss this one. It was either Newfoundland or he might have been up in Victoria, but he wasn't there live, at least. This is the first time I've seen this game.
Paddy, what is the surface like at Lamport Stadium to play on? How does it compare to York and other surfaces that you've played on?
It's a pretty decent surface, to be honest. It's I found York a little harder on the body, so Lamport was a decent change. But yeah, it was pretty fine. I can't really remember what it was like during the game. I remember just being extremely excited because it was our first time playing there, and everyone was really excited for like the location of where Lamport actually is.
That's true. It's one of the great things about Lamport Stadium. It's downtown. You can get the streetcar there. You can get the GO train there. It's really accessible for all the fans from Toronto, the GTA and beyond. And one of the fantastic things about playing there. Just a reminder to all our fans, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, please send in your questions for Paddy and Patrick, and we'll get those and we'll ask those so you can get some feedback live during this first half of the Legion versus Arrows game. Paddy, tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming an Arrows player. How did you end up joining the Arrows franchise?
I guess I started off with playing against the Blues growing up. I guess the whole life playing in Ontario, so we kind of knew each other. And then after one game, Mark kind of said, "Hey, we got an exhibition game. The team's the Arrows. Would you be interested in playing?"
Well, it looks like we might be losing Patrick there. Patrick will just give us one moment. We'll try and bring you back.
Great to see this lovely spring weather on this day, and one of the great times to be at Lamport Stadium in May for a game of rugby.
Patrick, let's try you again. Looks like we've... Patrick, if you're there, just say hello. Yeah, looks like we've kind of lost you there. We'll bring you back, Patrick. Just give us one moment, mate.
Few technical difficulties here as we try and navigate across Canada, speaking to Paddy and Patrick on the East Coast. But for all you fans, we've got an Arrows scrum here early in this game against the Legion. Arrows with some early possession in this game. El, what was it like for you as an entertainment director setting up for these Arrows games at Lamport Stadium?
Really, really easy because I live like 5 minutes down the road. I'll be honest. Look, Lamport's an old stadium. It's seen its share of share of games and Carabana and the likes down there as well. So, look, I really enjoy that space. I think it's one of the classic stadiums in Toronto, and hopefully it gets a little bit more love over the next coming years now with the Arrows in there, hopefully full time. It's a beautiful place to watch a game on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. Absolutely lovely. All right, looks like you're just with me, and bringing in Bill Webb to the conversation. Bill, if you'll hit your mute button there, you can hear me nice and well.
I can.
Fantastic. Well, it wouldn't be a live show with a few technical difficulties, but we'll figure those out. Bill, why don't you you walk us through this match and the lead up to this match and how important it was against this San Diego team?
Oh, it was an absolutely crucial match. I think we were 6-5 going into this game, and we were, we knew that if we were going to make the playoffs, we had to make a real run. And so this was a really crucial, a string of wins, and ultimately, it was a very successful season, and this was a really, really important game for us against one of the better teams in the league. I think we had some confidence because we had beaten them at home in San Diego. But, as we talked about earlier, this team, it's a very strong team. It was a strong team last season. And, as we wrapped up the shortened season this year, they were top of the West and we were top of the East. So there's a real rivalry that's developing here. And this was a big game in that rivalry. So we were pumped and ready to go. We did have, we had some last minute injuries, like I think it was 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐂𝐥𝐚𝐬𝐬 who had to step out, and so we called Paddy in to play, and he stepped up and had a very solid game.
Bill, talk to us about
Scott's back, great, and Paddy.
Yes, I'm back. Thanks, well. Elliot. Are you there, Paddy?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay. No, I was just going to ask you, Bill, talk about the logistics of this week, because the Arrows actually had 3 games in 8 days this week, starting with this game.
Yeah, we did, because there was a match against Austin that was canceled due to a threat of a tornado. They weren't able to get out of Houston, so they had a previous game canceled, had to be rescheduled, and so we were preparing to play 3 games in a week. And you know what? Again, I would say having done an 8-game road trip, we'd done tough things before, and our staff really prepared the guys well, made sure they had sufficient rest. And fortunately, we've got depth in our squad. It's one of our real strengths, is we've got a lot of depth, and so we were able to plan and execute during this week. It was a very successful, special week for the Arrows.
And Paddy, how many of those 3 games in the 8 days did you play during this stretch?
I actually got a lot of minutes in those 3 games. I went from having not much time to a lot. I started the first 2 games and played the full 80 in both of them, and then I came off the bench in the 3rd game against, I believe it was Utah.
Fans, just a reminder to get your questions in on Facebook and then YouTube. If you've got anything to ask Paddy Palfrey, his dad, or Bill Webb, we'll get those questions across to them as soon as they can. And Paddy, I have a question for you. I understand you're studying a PhD. How do you manage that with a rugby career?
I guess because it had a decent amount of chunks, periods where you can take time off. I've been lucky enough to have a good supervising committee, and I guess my dad's helped me out a lot with planning and whatnot. So it's been pretty good, to be honest. I haven't run into too many issues, except for the start of this season was my biggest issue, because I had to get a mandatory course I had to finish. So I missed the first half of the season, which led to the whole season. So
your studies are a big priority for you by the sounds of it right now.
Yes, yeah. I guess education is a big part of, I guess, my family values. So kind of getting education as well as playing rugby was a big thing for me. And right after the World Cup was a good time to get a couple courses done.
Now, speak about the World Cup, because you were selected and played fullback for Canada at the 2019 World Cup. What was that experience like for you in Japan?
It was amazing. Yeah, kind of didn't know if I was going to be selected or started in to the World Cup at all, and then strung a few good games together, gained some confidence, and ended up starting in 2 of the games. And I was delighted. I had my dad and 3 brothers and some friends from come to the World Cup as well. There's a couple awesome photos of them in the crowd as well. So it was an amazing experience.
Elle, did you have any questions for Paddy or Bill?
Yeah, do you guys know how to run a 5-person live stream? Because this is really hard. I'm just getting messages from a few people. Sorry about the sound. I had sound issues and we had video issues. I got lots of questions, actually. And look, you sound like a really a full plate sort of guy, Paddy. What do you do when you're not playing rugby and not studying? And I know we've talked about shoveling snow. Is that one of your favorite things?
That's probably one of my least favorite things. I try to avoid that as much as possible. Unfortunately, this year in Newfoundland we had to shovel a lot. But downtime, sometimes, if I'm not studying a lot, I read some books, but not like thick, heavy books or anything like that. And then I'd play a decent amount of video games, to be honest, and TV shows if I have a lot of downtime to kill.
I'd be remiss to ask, what's your favorite TV show at the moment?
I'm deep into the Ozark show on Netflix. I just finished the season 2, so I've been chipping away at that.
It's quite popular at this moment, and a lot of people are talking about it. And Patrick, what's when we look at sports, often, I'm assuming you started in the sport of rugby union here through your father. Were there any other sports that were tempting along the way?
I played a lot of hockey, actually. I was drafted to the CHL, or I guess the QHL would be equivalent to the OHL in Ontario. So I was drafted to the QHL, but then kind of decided to stop and play rugby instead and go through a school route instead. I definitely grew up playing a lot of hockey through in my day.
So, Bill, 0-0 after 12 minutes. Is this what you expected at this point, or do you expect 40 points? Everyone gets the sack.
Yeah, it's both teams take a little bit of time to warm up. Two very solid squads, and hey, the first game we played against these guys was a close one. So
I'll draw your attention. Just didn't mean to cut you off. Billy's just taken out your sign. Has just absolutely destroyed your Waypoint investment sign. How many weeks on the bench is that going to be for him?
My day job. So deducting from somebody's salary there. I'm not sure. I think it was Dan Moore, the captain.
If you keep your eyes north, you will see that one of the San Diego staff tries very, very hard to repair it when he should probably be doing his job. But he's done a great job. Dan's absolutely taken it out.
I think I got my two young boys to go over there and fix it. They'd set them up at the beginning of that game, so I think I had them over there fixing it.
Well, Dan was MLR Player of the Week before this, so if anyone could get away with it, he could. Or he was player. It was at least in the Team of the Week. So you'd want your captain doing that. Probably not anyone else.
Yeah.
Now, Paddy, your dad's there with you, and just reading a little bit about him, he's clearly a very impressive fellow. Can you, either your father or yourself, want to share a bit about his history in the game of rugby?
I was brought up in Ireland and played with Munster for 7 or 8 years, and when I went to England to continue my medical education, and I played with London Irish for 6 years, and I was the player coach there. So when I came to Canada in 1982, I got pretty heavily involved in coaching, initially in Montreal and then subsequently in Newfoundland. And then I coached the Canadian team for 4 years, from 96 to 2000. And I was the coach in the 99 World Cup. And as a result of my experience there, where I felt that the players had not been given the resources that they needed to train properly and prepare properly, I went into rugby politics, which was probably the worst decision I ever made. But I ended up was president of Rugby Canada for a while and on the board for a long time. And I'm currently on the Council for World Rugby.
And perhaps explain what that role means right now, that you're on the Council for World Rugby. What does that involve?
It generally involves bugger all. The power of World Rugby resides in the bureaucracy of World Rugby and the relationships with the bureaucracies in all the countries. And the council takes responsibility for decisions made, but has very little influence on those decisions. So the only time that we're kind of considered is when there's a vote that's relevant. Right? We vote all the time, but we don't get to discuss the vote. So we're only really of relevance in deciding where a World Cup should be played, men and women, and who should be the chair and those types of things. I suppose you'd call them political types of decisions, but we've got very little influence on the strategy for World Rugby.
So perhaps tell us about the Arrows. What, in your mind, have the Arrows meant to Canadian rugby?
I think that my interest is trying to get the Canadian national team to fulfill its potential. And then the current days, it's not feasible to compete in the World Cup unless you've got a pathway to the World Cup team, unless you've got, by that I mean an under-20 program and a pride program, but also you've got to have a capacity for rugby players in their mid-20s to be able to play high-quality rugby and concentrate on it. So the fact that the Arrows has become part of a professional rugby league, it has the potential to make all the difference for Canada. And the way that they've approached it, the Arrows have approached it, is to put an emphasis on Canadian rugby players. So in a very short period of time, it's become an integral piece of the game for Canadians and an integral component of how we're going to develop for the next World Cup in France.
So, Paddy, perhaps tell us as an inside centre, this was a pretty scrappy start to this game. What are you thinking about in terms of the game at this point where a lot of it's been played through the forwards?
I still can't believe we haven't scored yet. We've had all the possession and in their half. I've been just watching it here. But We've had a couple of decent phases, but the Arrows got such a strong forward pack that it's kind of hard to stray away from it too often. Especially like the scrum's usually dominant, and they're usually able to get over the advantage line through forward carries. So it's pretty much a talisman through what we run through.
El, what do you think of the game so far?
Well, I've been lucky to watch it about 12 times this week, so I was pretty excited about it. I really like this player here, Mike 𝐓𝐡𝐞. I hope I'm saying that right. He is a pretty impressive player out there. Oh, Peterson with a good run here. This is kind of against the grain.
Yeah.
San Diego with the first points.
They're definitely a dangerous team against errors.
So talk us through what happened there, Paddy, because that was a try that was a bit against the run of play in this first half.
Yeah, we kind of had they kicked it out, cleared their lines, and we kind of had a counterattack in decent position. We make an error, and they, a couple phases later, are underneath the post. So it's pretty tough. It's a team you don't really want to make an error against, because if you make an error, your defense is disjointed, and they can get through the hole.
Now, Peterson, the fly half for San Diego, really impressed me during this game. What is he like to play against?
He's a good player. His vision, he can see where the holes are, and he's very skilled. He really runs that team very well. If you, in the second half, you'll watch a defensive error by me, and he just sees me kind of pinching in, calls for the pull pass, and just his speed just burns around me on the outside. So you'll see that later in the second half.
Shout out to the Toronto Arrows Supporters Club. You can see their banner there in the background. A friend requested Chris Dodd there before. Sorry we didn't get to join you for the pre-game drinks. I believe Karen was there as well. Glad there's people out there enjoying the classics, and the same crew of people who's down at Lamport having a beer is doing the same thing right now. As Peterson converts.
No, he missed.
Oh, you missed. He's converted me. He's converted me as a Peterson fan.
Yeah, that's a rare miss for him.
Mm-hmm.
You get a fairly long shelf life in the game of rugby.
Yeah.
34, 37. When do you call it a day, Patrick? You're only a young man. You're only 28, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that's correct. I'm not too sure. I feel like I was trying to make that decision, and then after World Cup, I kind of thought, why not play for another 4 years and see how I'm feeling and whatnot. So, kind of depends what your body's feeling like, and if you're still able to play.
I guess that's it. And Patrick Senior, you've been a coach for many years. Who are some of the talents? You mentioned coaching the team between 96, 2000, around there. Who are some of the Canadian talents that you've been lucky enough to coach?
Well, in that team, there was a fantastic pack of forwards that could handle anybody in the world. And you had Rod Snow, and the best player, I think, that's played for Canada is 𝐓𝐡𝐞. He was an incredible.
Wow.
He was an incredible player. John Tate was playing second row in the lineout. He was a very good lineout jumper. You had an old man like Mark Cardinal, who played against France and did so well against France. Morgan Williams really started his rugby career in that World Cup, scored two tries against France. And probably another amazing performance was Gareth Rees, who, despite carrying an injury, played in all the games and kicked, I think, 12 penalty kicks with a 100% record. Our biggest problem in Canada is that it's hard for us to put together a deep roster of 24 players who are international class. So if we might get we might have enough forwards, but then we don't have enough backs. Or alternatively, we might have decent backs, but not deep enough forwards. And that was that was our problem in that World Cup, despite the fact that we played very well. And we were beaten by Fiji, and if we'd beaten them, we'd gone to the quarterfinal.
I was lucky enough to meet 𝐓𝐡𝐞 at a ticket holders event for the Arrows late last year. That man is a lovely, lovely gentleman with the largest hands I think I've ever shook in my life. I felt like I was shaking the hands of Andre the Giant.
Yeah, giant hands.
So Mike Teo's there on screen. I hope I'm getting his name right, Scott. But you did ask what I liked about this game, so I found this player rather impressive and had a look. And he's a United States player, and he grew up in Long Beach, California. Who else grew up in Long Beach, California?
Well, I think a lot of people did, but some pretty famous rappers from memory.
Well, the year he was born was the same year Snoop Dogg was charged for murder. So I thought that was rather interesting. But he's actually he's played all around, and he got a deal with the team, the Scottish, and was off to do some playing for them before this whole COVID crisis sort of kicked in, which was a shame. But he's a very impressive player in this match. And Peterson and Duplessis as well here as the Arrows make a run down the right-hand side, right in front of the supporters section. We've got a penalty there. Parfreeze, what makes a good referee? I'm very interested. The referee plays a very large role in rugby union, larger than a lot of sports. There's a lot of conversations. What makes a great ref?
It's a tough question. One that's giving you all the calls, maybe? Sometimes if they don't deal with any talk back and just make a straightforward call, it's hard to consistently get angry at them if they just keep making a consistent call. Because then you can start, if they're calling consistent penalties, then you just have to stop doing what he's calling. But when they're all over the place, it's a little tough.
We have a question from one of our viewers here for the Parfreeze, and the question is from Jamie McKenzie. Parfreeze, where is your favourite place that you have sailed?
I'd say sailing would have to be Thailand. I was with Jamie. It was a great time. It was after the World Cup. We went traveling with about 10 of the team, so it was awesome. Jeff Hassler, who plays with the Seawolves as well, was our captain.
And did you have your Leonardo DiCaprio the beach moment when you're in Thailand, or was it just too full of tourists?
We were lucky enough to have a little isolation away because Jeff Hassler had his captaincy license. We were able to all chip in to rent a boat for a week with him as the captain, so it wasn't that expensive.
Designated sailor.
He actually spent a lot of time. He spent a year in South Africa to get his captaincy license.
The more you know. Now, Sam Malcolm is lining up for a kick. Last week we watched him put 9 away. You think he's going to put this one away, boys?
I'd say if you bet against him, you'd be an idiot.
Thinking about the Arrows team, Paddy, what would be the power rankings of the goal kickers? Because clearly Malcolm's number 1, but you had to pick a 2 and a 3. Who would those people be that you'd want kicking penalty goals?
For sure, Sammy. I actually haven't met Taylor Adams before, but he seems like he's a decent goal kicker. And then it'd be down between Ferguson and Giuseppe, I think. Oh, Will Kelly too. Will Kelly's a good young goal kicker.
What about yourself, Paddy? Have you ever kicked goals much in your career?
Not very good, but I've tried it a couple times.
Probably better than us, I'm guessing.
I think I'd be at the tail end of those backs.
A lot of pushing and shoving going on in this game. I think Peterson got a bit of a warning before to sort of cool his jets. As San Diego makes up, little goose step there by Teo up to halfway. And just to look back at something that was stated before, Snoop Dogg didn't actually kill anyone, but his bodyguard went to jail. So, yeah, check it out on Google. It's a very interesting story. Now, back to the match. Thanks to everyone who's tuning in on the YouTube chat. We appreciate it. Everyone's having a little bit of a chat there. We got the Dodster. We got shouting out Johnny Moonlight. Sammy the Boot. Is that his nickname, Patrick? Sammy the Boot? I like that.
I think he's been called by that by some people. Some of the fans like to call him that too.
Speaking of fans, Karen says, "Hey Paddy, when are you done your doctorate?"
Hey Karen, thanks for joining in. I don't know. I'm hoping within 2 years. It better be from my father. So yeah, within 2 years would be good, and being able to. It's luckily enough I'm done most of the in-class mandatory stuff, so I'd be able to do it in Toronto as well. So hopefully I'll make her be able to be back in the Arrows jersey in no time.
Patrick, can you just tell us? Oh, sorry, you go.
No, that's all right. I was just going to say, Patrick Senior, you probably wrote the exam anyway. Can you just can you fast shoot him through this program?
I can't. He had to do the comprehensive exams himself, so he managed to be good, and he had to write his thesis himself. So if he's not able to write, he won't pass. And I don't examine him, so that's fine.
No help from the old man there to sneak around the back. Well, that's good. Scott, go ahead. You got a question? Oh, Scott's disappeared. Everybody's disappeared. It's just me on my own again. There we go. Everyone's back. Scott, you can.
Looks like there's some gremlins in the internet today, Elliot.
Yeah, the weird thing is like you're, what, 2 blocks away from me? And even the boys in Newfoundland are getting a better signal, but that's all right. Look, where are we at now? We're at the 26-minute mark. And this will be Andrew throwing in the ball. He's going to join us a little bit later. We're also lucky to be joined by Aaron Carpenter and my very, very special halftime show. Scott, you've had a little sneak peek. What do you reckon?
I don't know a lot about it, to be honest. So I've been working my regular job during the week, but you seem very excited about what's coming up at halftime today. So I'm not sure if you want to keep it as a surprise or you want to tease us a little bit now.
Yeah, no, we'll keep it. So the plan was this year to get more involved with the halftimes, and now that ship has sailed, I'm adding a little bit more excitement to our halftimes here on the Classics. So hope everybody enjoys that as it comes up. And we've also got some really, really fantastic fan videos that the fans have sent us, and Brock has compiled them together, and we'll be showing them at halftime as well. So nip out, refresh your drink, and come back and join us and watch those. And we're entering the second half with Aaron Carpenter and Andrew 𝐓𝐡𝐞. And then we have a very special piece at the end of the show. 20 musicians from Canada, the United States, and South America use this time in isolation to create a song. It was sent to me by my good friend Kyle, and they've shot this wonderful video called Isolation, which shows the empty streets of Toronto to this song with 20 musicians in it. Everybody's had something to do with the production of the song, so we're going to show that at the end today, so make sure you check that out. It's great to see people out there creating in this time, and it'll be great to share that with everyone. But as we come back to the rugby, San Diego's still leading 5-3 here. Scott, what's it going to take from the Arrows right now to turn this over before half-time?
Well, it's been a bit of a scrappy first half. The Legion scored a try against the run of play, but there's already been a yellow card dished out, I think, to the Legion. So the Arrows have just got to hang in there, and I'm sure we can talk to Aaron Carpenter, one of the coaches, after half-time about what the coaches said to the team at half-time to inspire them as they headed into the second half. But there's still some more first-half action to come here.
Now, Patrick, a few of these players that are in this team aren't actually in the current 2020 squad. Can you speak to a few of the guys who aren't in the team at the moment? And sometimes it's injury takes players away, but some of these players are off studying.
I'm trying to think. Morgan isn't with the team anymore. He's a great player, but the additions that the Arrows have made in the offseason has really significantly impacted as well. So they've made good adjustments. Do you know who else? John Moonlight, I guess, not involved anymore. He's an amazing player as well. And then I believe the winger Avery is not involved with the Arrows either, and he's a great young talent as well.
I might bring back in Bill Webb. Bill, if you're there, you can speak to a few of the players that, here we go, that aren't playing in this 2020 squad for good reasons.
Yeah, Morgan Mitchell got a contract in Japan, so he's been playing in Japan and still stays in touch with the team. And for all I know, he might be watching today. I think he might have caught some of last week's game. And John Moonlight is a firefighter in Pickering, so he's got a full-time job there. And Avery Oideman on the wing is at Cardiff Met University, working on his degree. So that's where those three fellows are. You know, who knows? Some folks may come back one day. You know, we've got, and the great part is, though, all of our players, even if they're doing something else or if they're alumni of the team, stay in touch. It's a very tight culture, and you know, they're all friends, and regardless of what they're doing now, you know, we love to keep in touch with them.
Now, speaking of some friends, we've got 𝐓𝐡𝐞 Wines and Whiskey who are watching us right now, watching the classics and joined us. These is a lovely local Toronto business who is doing God's work right now by supplying us with alcohol, and the best alcohol from 𝐓𝐡𝐞. They have wines, whiskey. 𝐓𝐡𝐞 is where Patrick Senior is from. How good's the whiskey over there, Dr. Patrick?
I don't drink whiskey and I don't allow spirits into my house.
That plug went just fantastically then. I'm glad I threw that over. Well, you do love 𝐓𝐡𝐞, though. And how good is 𝐓𝐡𝐞?
You'll see his three of his sons at least like to drink whiskey. So my mother used to drink it quite a bit too. So
well, I've got an empty wine glass here. So if anyone from 𝐓𝐡𝐞 would like to 𝐓𝐡𝐞 Wines would like to hook me up, it would really save me lining up at the LCBO right now. I would really appreciate that. But no, we hear the wines are excellent, and so we hope you guys are doing well during this time, and we always love supporting the Arrows sponsors because we know how much they support the team.
And you get 100% guarantee from 𝐓𝐡𝐞 Wines and Whiskey. 100% guarantee. How good's that? Satisfaction.
I can give a shout out though for the wines because I drink wine, perhaps too much of it.
Oh,
so
there you go.
so in a different manner, I can definitely give a shout out to 𝐓𝐡𝐞 Wines.
Well, most of their products are actually available in their online shop. You can't get them in the LCBO, and they do deliver, which is a key thing these days. And shout out to those delivery people who are keeping the spirits flowing at this time. But yeah, big love to 𝐓𝐡𝐞 Wines and Whiskey. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate that. Check out www.𝐓𝐡𝐞-Wines-and-Whiskies.ca. I checked it out yesterday and my mouth was just watering. As we get back to the match, we've got about 9 minutes left in this. Bill, what are you thinking at this point of the match? Oh, mute. Just hit your mute button there, Bill. Thanks, mate. There we go.
There we go. Tight game, and as I said, it's been pretty scrappy, and I sort of had the sense at this point that it was going to bust open a little bit, maybe before the half, but we shall. There were some really some guys put in some really strong individual performances in this game. You're going to see some great, desperate tackles here that to save some points. It was a very, very tight match right through to the end.
Patrick Senior, before you guys go today, I must ask you about your life outside of rugby, because is it true that you have an Order of Canada?
It is, yeah.
Tell us a bit about sort of your life outside of rugby, because it is very impressive.
I'm a kidney doctor, and I have a big involvement in research that relates to patients, and have done a lot of work in kidney disease and genetic diseases and population health and health services research. So I retired from clinical work a year ago, but I'm still doing full-time research. So that's been, I've really had 2 lives, or 3 lives, I hope. One was through medicine, one was through rugby, and one was through my family. So I've been lucky.
So you haven't had much spare time, in other words.
Not that I wanted very much spare time, to be honest.
Oh, look, that's really impressive. And I'm wondering at this time, given everything that's going on with COVID-19, I mean, have you sort of had to, jump back in and do certain things in the medical world that maybe you hadn't done for a while, or like has that shaped what you do in that realm at all?
I suppose my background gives me some knowledge about what we should be trying to do as provinces as a country. But from a clinical perspective, we didn't get a big surge of cases in Newfoundland, and we've had in the last 8 days, last 7 days we had no cases, and we got one today. So we're on the kind of the downside of the epidemic in Newfoundland. Now the risk is when you open up restrictions or loosen restrictions, whether it bounces back and how quickly you can open up the province to transport, etc., etc. So I think that we're going to be have problems with this virus for another 12 months, one way, or another 18 months, one way or the other.
Yes, it's obviously very important that everyone stays healthy at this time, and glad to hear that things out in Newfoundland are sort of improving. But as you say, we all have to be super vigilant and staying inside, hence why we're all doing this from our respective living rooms right now. But we're heading towards the end of this first half, Elle. You must be at this point on a game day thinking about what you're going to do at halftime for entertainment.
That's right. Trying to find out where all our staff are, where everyone's hanging out. I mean, it's a fun time being down there, and we sometimes get stuck watching the game a little bit too much, and then we have to all right, let's put on a show. But at this point, coming close to halftime, you always want to see the team get over the line. You want to see them put a couple of points on just before they go for the break. And speaking, I've got a question here from the pride of rugby Nova Scotia, Jack Hanratty. What's on the menu for the dinner for the Parfreys this evening, and any new red wines found during isolation?
So he thinks he's our fifth son, Jack Hanratty does. But we've got a modus operandi now since we've gone socially isolated. We work during the daytime. Patrick does his study for his 𝐓𝐡𝐞, and I go down to my basement office and work. I even put a suit on and go down and work for the day. And then in the evening time, Patrick cooks dinner, and I open the best bottle of wine I can find in the house. So we've had 5 weeks of enjoyable evenings.
I think Dad might be frying up some cod as well tonight. So that's one of his go-to dishes.
As we see Sam Malcolm just pot over another kick in the 1.5 episodes of the classics we've had so far, he has not missed a shot at goal. So perhaps we should keep some form of tally, because we know he's a good goal kicker, but this is starting to get ridiculous.
That was a tough kick too.
Mm-hmm.
Outside that 15-meter line.
Something about those New Zealanders, they don't miss when they kick.
They're talented, aren't they?
Yeah. One of my friends described Sam as a metronome of excellence. He is.
Let's touch on, perhaps, Bill, I'll ask you a little about this. The game against the Legion earlier in this season was an epic comeback by the Arrows. That must have been one of your most, wins you were most proud of in your first full season in the MLR.
Yeah, and it was exciting for me. That was the first game and the only road game that I've missed. I was traveling with my family in British Columbia at the time, and so I wasn't there for the game live, but watched it on TV, and it was almost like an out-of-body experience to not be there for a game for the first time. And so it came right down right to the very last few minutes of the game, and we squeaked out the win in front of a very noisy and boisterous crowd in San Diego, and so that was a big moment. I think that was actually a critical turning point for the team in the entire season. And I was just feeling it with my kids. We were screaming in our hotel room in Vancouver with excitement.
Bill, what's the rugby scene like in San Diego for those who maybe haven't been there or played there?
From everything I hear, I've never been to San Diego in my life, but it's a very passionate community. I know their fans they probably have one of the most engaged communities. If you look at the the activity on their fans' websites and their social media. They're very proud. A lot of rugby played in the state of California, and the franchise they play in what you can. If you watch games played in San Diego, they play in a terrific stadium, and they get strong crowds there. And obviously, you've got nice weather. And I know that the players who've been there, the Arrows, when they've traveled to play there, have said it's a great place to be. Lovely climate. You can get out to the beach. There's an aircraft carrier that the boys toured when they were there and really enjoyed being around the city. And I think a lot of knowledgeable fans. And there's a lot of respect. There's a lot of rivalry, but a lot of respect between the Legion and the Arrows. So we were. It's disappointing that this season has ended early because we were. I think there was some anticipation building about the games that we were going to be playing each other this year.
And Bill, the Legion had actually signed Ma Nonu, an former All Blacks player who played more than 100 games for the All Blacks this season. Was that the biggest signing in the young history of the league to date, would you say?
I would say it would either be Ma Nonu or the Beast, who went from South Africa to Washington, D.C., two very significant signings, as well as Mathieu Bastareaud in New York. But from everything I've heard, Ma Nonu, a great player. As you're probably aware, most of the All Blacks, they're really strong people, come from a very strong culture. And from what I've heard, he's had a very positive influence on the team. A team that was already very strong, but really contributed to the culture, really contributed as a player, but really helping other players sort of lift their games. And I think taught a lot of other players. So he was a great addition to what was already a very strong team. And we're sad that we haven't got a chance to play them, this year, but we'll see. We look forward to the next one.
Paddy, were you glad that you didn't have to tackle Ma Nonu in this game? Because he probably would have been coming right up against you.
It would have been a cool experience, being able to play against some good players like that. I had to tackle Sonny Bill at the World Cup, so that was a negative tackle, I would say.
Now, we should stop the game right here or stop sort of talking, because that was a really unfortunate moment for the Arrows as Mikey Teo scooped up a loose ball when the Arrows were on the attack and ran away and scored a length of the field try. Paddy, how does that feel when you're really on the advantage and then something like that happens? It must be a bit of a backbreaker. It
is a tough one to deal with. Even their two tries were just off two mistakes, and they went basically. That one was probably 70, and the other one was 50, and it's pretty tough to put your team under that type of scrutiny, especially when the forwards are playing good, and then you have a mistake in the back line. It kind of, as a back line, you're kind of pissed off at yourself. But yeah, that's one you don't want to give up. 70 meters just straight through, because our defense is good, so you want to make them work for those points.
And the ball landing right on someone's Camry into the parking lot. That is the end of the first half. And it is 12-6, San Diego up. If you were there live, you'd be wondering if you're going to put it through this moment. We want to thank very much the Parfreys for joining us. Please, round of applause, everyone. Thank you for coming and joining us all the way. I know you're very, very busy. And thank you for joining us for the first half today. And do you have a message for the fans there, Patrick?
Thanks for everyone for tuning in, and thank you, Elliot and Scott, for hosting and putting off these kind of classic Arrows games. It's a good thing to see, trying to keep rugby alive and keep the Arrows fans happy.
Thank you. Well, we do our best, and thank you very much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it today. So take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
And Scott, let's take a look at this half time that I'm just pulling up now.
Well, before we get to that, El, can I just say it was a bit of a scrappy first half for the Arrows, and a bit of a scrappy first half for you technically, because we had a couple of technical difficulties, but we got through it. And now we're heading into the second half, and hopefully there'll be bigger and better things. But thanks for sticking with us, Arrows fans. We're all sort of trying to pull together various people from across Ontario and the country, and bear with us. But really looking forward, El, to seeing what you've got in store for halftime here to entertain the fans.
Well, I put a bit of work into this one. It's not too bad, but essentially we had a small issue, so you're not even going to turn up on this screen, but if you bear with me 1 second, you know what, I'm just going to get straight into this. I'm going to, here is our halftime show, a chance to go and, hit the washrooms, take a small break, and here we go. And there we are, Scott, the halftime show.
Elliot, what the hell was that?
Toronto Arrows.
That is I don't know where that's from, somewhere down south, obviously. But a little bit of excitement for your halftime show. It's 12-6 with San Diego leading now. Thanks very much to all the fans who got involved and answered the call when we asked you to make a fan video. This is your chance to get up on the big screen. And I'm going to jump straight into this now. Thank you to everyone. And make sure you send your questions through. Coming up right now, after this video, we got Aaron Carter, defensive coach, followed by Andrew Quattrin. So get those questions ready, send them across, and we'll ask them for you. Let's take a look at some fan videos right now.
Just wanted to send so much love to the Arrows players, staff and community. Even in lockdown, we've still got each other, and I can't wait for the rugby reunion. So keep those Arrows heads up and let's go Arrows!
How's it going, Arrows? I'd only been living in Toronto for about a year, but some of the most fun I had was coming to see you guys at Lamport Stadium just win every weekend after every weekend. It was so much fun. Good luck next season, and let's go Arrows!
Everyone in the Arrows organization knows that I just can't even. So, anyway, Arrows up. Till we meet again.
Always asking me what I got on. they be like, "Hey, Brandon, what you got on?" Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. That's split. That's split right there.
Hey, what's good, Arrows? Hope to see you guys soon.
We love you guys.
Hi guys. It's a real shame the season was cancelled, of course, but it's going to make that first home game in Toronto next season absolutely unbelievable. Come on.
Hey guys, it's Dan from Lulu's Rugby Podcast. Just want to say thank you for keeping us in good spirits with all the content you're putting out there, and we can't wait to see all the boys back on the pitch. Cheers.
Well, there we are. Thank you very much to all our fans.
Thank you, guys.
Lovely videos. That was fantastic, and we're going to put more content from our fans up on the screen as we get into the second half. We are joined by Aaron Carpenter, defensive coach. Aaron, thanks for joining us.
Listen, guys, thank you for having me. I'd also like to thank all the fans that are watching. It's always good to try and stay engaged with you guys. Sponsors, obviously. Awesome to be able to make something out of this and be able to get some eyeballs on your products. And I was watching this game the other day, and I was just it's such an excellent game of rugby. I would watch it again and have a lot of fun. In every game rugby, you're trying to get one up on the other guy, and this game just goes back and forth. Nobody really gets the upper hand. So yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Aaron, what was the coaching staff telling the team at halftime in this game? Because it was a bit of a scrappy performance from the Arrows in the first half.
Yeah, it was scrappy, but I think, like Paddy alluded to, by no fault of our own, we were just trying to play, and a couple of those tries are against the run of play, right? So, like, you can't have the benefits of playing wide open rugby without a bit of a risk. So we take that risk sometimes. So at halftime, I think the message was extremely positive. We try and come into every halftime with what can we make things better with, not coming in with the whips and the sticks and trying to beat guys up, because that only gets them into a more negative mindset. We're trying to stay positive and just look at what we can do to improve. So usually most half times we let the guys take that little bit of a break, just have a minute or two to reflect on what they've done in the first half, and then we split into our mini groups and again look for ways we can improve. And myself and the other coaches, Corey, Chris, and Pete, we split with either the backs or the forwards and try and look for little things that we can improve on. And then we in the lineouts and the scrums, and then for the backs in their set piece play and their kicking and stuff like that. And then we come together as a team, and the attack will go through what they think they can improve on. And as my point in defense, we'll look at things we can improve on. And the only thing we can really improve on there is just transitioning quicker, like when the ball hits the ground, like we make a mistake, and just trying to get back into some kind of defensive shape as quickly as we can.
Now, Aaron, you went pretty quickly from being a very accomplished Canadian rugby player to being a coach. Can you talk about that journey and what took you to the Toronto Arrows?
Yeah, for sure. I've spoken to it a couple times now. I've done some webinars and some conferences with people. I just find that for myself, I had a long career, so a ton of experience, and I've just been I've always wanted to coach and give back to the game that gave so much to me. So I've just been along the way, just trying to keep a tally of some of the things that have been done, good coaches that lay a certain influence upon me so that I could emulate what they've brought in, and just trying to amalgamate it all into one kind of a philosophy of how I coach. And it seems to be working well, and if things don't work well, then I'll make some adjustments. But I also found that I've had that experience of captaining the national team a couple of times, and that I tried to see things the way coaches would have seen them. So it just helps me jump into that seat a little bit easier, having tried to be that embodiment of the coach on the field and in other aspects of my career. And I played professionally overseas for a number of years, and pretty much on every team that I played overseas, I was either captain or vice captain. So I've had a lot of experience with that side of the game, and I think that helps make that transition easier for me.
And just on your playing career, for those who may not know, you are the most capped Canadian player in history. What does that mean to you?
It's an awesome achievement, and something that like for now it's mine. But listen, they're playing more games than ever now, and who knows how long that'll be my achievement. But for as long as it is, I'll be extremely proud of it. And it's something that I just like. I always wanted to play for Canada and try and I try and promote that to these guys when they're playing for the Arrows, when they get called on to play for Canada. It's like your opportunity. I remember just earlier you were talking to Pat Jr. about retirement. Like, hold on to it as long as you can, because you got a lot of time. Like, now I'm in that seat. I got a lot of time on the sidelines. So I can tell you it's better out there. So enjoy it for as long as you can. The relationships you build, and you don't remember the games at the end of it. You remember the camaraderie you built with the players and fans, and the challenges that come more than any part of the game, right? So those 80 caps are something I'll never forget. And I say it's a lot of people is that I just always said yes, because there's nothing I wanted to do more than play for my country. And I was on professional teams that tried to do things that tell me they weren't going to pay me or cut my pay. I was like, you know what? This means more to me than that. I come to the overseas to play professionally so I can be better for Canada. It wasn't the other way around. I wasn't chasing big dollars and money. I was just coming to be the best rugby player I could be, and that's what I try and promote.
Yeah, an outstanding career, and we were speaking earlier. You've got 3 young kids as well, and so you're coaching your own team at home there as well. Have we got some future rugby stars in the Carpenter clan there?
Yeah, they like I always make a joke that my girls are more rough and tumble than my boy, but my boy is quite skillful, and he'll be a good player someday. Probably more likely to be a back than a forward, which hurts me a little bit inside. But my girls are very physical, and they got more of the dad rugby genes than my son did. But he's an excellent. He has some of the attributes that I had, as well as just that never say die attitude. So I know he'll be successful in whatever. I'm not the kind of parent that's going to push him into anything. I let him kind of lead the way. He's interested in soccer. He's interested in hockey. He's interested in all the popular sports, and young kids are interested in Canada these days. So when the time comes and he asks me to give him the crash course on rugby, I'll be right there ready to give it to him.
Is it too late for me?
I can always help. Yeah, for your club, I'm sure.
I'm 37 and haven't run more than 10 minutes in the last 5 years, so I'm sure I'm a work in progress. If you want to take me on.
There's always room for impact players out there.
We could turn it into a reality TV show.
That'd be all right.
Well, look, thanks so much for joining us, Aaron Carpenter. And just finally, just your memories of this day in conclusion, and a message to the fans.
Yeah, no, I think this day was, like you said, beautiful day to play rugby. You talk about some of the perfect days out there. This is one of them. Not too hot, not too cold. The boys can just get out there, focus on their craft, and I think that, like we talked about, the defense performed really well, and really the whole point, just get that ball back, and we did it a number of times. We put one of the best attacking teams under a lot of pressure, and we got that ball back. So for the fans, I just wanted to reiterate some of the stuff that's already been said. Let's stay really positive. Let's focus on all the good things, and like some of the fans said there, the next home game in next year, it's going to be amazing. All that kind of energy is just going to build up and build up and build up, and then be ready to explode once we're back here home.
One last question. Is it true you're the second most famous person from Brantford, Ontario?
For sure, yeah. There's nobody. I don't think I'm even the second most famous person from Brantford. There's probably a lot more famous people that come out. Lots of hockey players have come out of Brantford, but Wayne Gretzky is definitely the number one that's come out of there. And yeah, it's. I just recently got inducted into the Brantford Sports Hall of Fame, so a really big honor to be in the same building as Wayne Gretzky has been put in there. So that's a huge honor. So thanks.
That's well done. Congratulations. The only time I've been to Brantford, I gave away, as part of a competition, a Kia Soul at the mall. Were you there that day by any chance?
No, I don't think I was there. I would have been in the draw to try and win if I was.
It was out there. But the great thing was that we had like 5 people doing all these challenges, and a young lady who just turned like 18 won the car, and it was a whole thing. But yeah, it's that's my only connection to Brantford at this point, but hope to come and visit soon if you'll take us.
Brantford's an awesome place, and yeah, it's just like it's got some interesting people in some of the areas around there. So.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Aaron Carpenter, and for your thoughts on today. Really appreciate it.
No problem, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I'm real interested to see what Andrew's hair is looking real good. Mine still watching the COVID no haircut pandemics, but you got some good information coming from this young man. He's a real good character. And thanks for Patty and Bill for everything that they put into this as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Aaron, and let's not wait any longer. Here he is in a nice shiny box. Andrew 𝐓𝐡𝐞, everyone. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Scott, how are you?
Yeah, we're all right. Got past the first half jitters. Things are moving smoothly.
Oh.
Everyone's in a nice clean box there. I'm loving it. So
I'm watching what you're doing, I guess, from behind the scenes, and it's pretty impressive. I'm pretty lost, but it looks good.
Well, we had a small situation where all the camera sources decided to go, about 10
You're doing a
minutes
great
before we
job.
started, but we're getting there. So this game really is, for us who've watched it, it is really takes off here in the second half, doesn't it? This is where it really hits its stride.
Yeah, I think even when I know we were talking about the game in San Diego, it was the same sort of thing. Like it took off second half. Coaches sort of came in and said, "All right, let's go do something out there in the second half," and it's exactly what happened. So it's almost like the same game in both San Diego and Toronto. So it's awesome.
Andrew, how was the line-out working this day? Because you throw the line-out ball, and how were you feeling at this point of the game about how that part of your game and the team's game was going?
Yeah, I thought I was feeling all right. I know the refs got me on a couple not straight, and I mean, I guess that's probably what the hookers and all of rugby are on the refs about, just calling that not straight. But it was going all right. Pretty successful. I found like I was connecting with 𝐓𝐡𝐞 at the back, and even in the middle, we work pretty well together. But I guess we'll see right here. Hopefully I back myself up.
Well, let's watch this line-out actually here. Is this your throw, Andrew?
Yes, it is, I believe.
Okay, well, let's just, maybe you can just talk us through this. Talk us through this.
Run us through the internal monologue. Here we go.
So I'm getting the call from Robbie Brower. Where are we going? Cheech is calling it. Oh, yeah. You know what? That was probably just all right. Andrew's been struggling a bit. Let's just win one at the front, sort of thing.
The cameraman was struggling a little bit too there. We missed basically the whole thing.
So that was Shep and I just playing catch at the front, so that's good.
And
those are good throws.
As a line-out thrower, Andrew, are you trying to sort of get everyone involved, so not just throw it to the same guy all the time? You're trying to keep everyone on their toes, or is it just a specific call for each situation?
Yeah, so generally I'll actually get the call from the first guy in the lineup, and essentially, yeah, we sort of like to switch it up, I guess because we sort of have some different body types and whatnot, that sometimes, if you go to a body type that someone might not think is going to jump, you end up winning it. So I think it's more about keeping the opponent on their toes. And I mean, San Diego is such like a versatile pack that they can defend anywhere. So honestly, a win for us in the lineout is huge.
And what's the code that's used? Is it a numerical code, alphabetic? Do you say something kind of weird like spicy pad thai? And everyone knows what's going to happen. Well, you don't have to give away the team secrets. But,
no, it's all right. So I'm hoping that there's no broken telephone, because usually the call comes in from Rob, and so they've discussed it in their circle, and then Rob will be like the message man, and he'll deliver it to me.
He's doing the PowerPoint presentation. He's telling you what's up.
Exactly. So essentially, he'll just literally tell me the name of the call, and I'll know it, and sometimes there could be an audible or whatnot. So yeah, that's really all that's going on. A decent amount of teams use it that way. I don't know if anyone ever, if the hooker has any control over it anymore. I remember in high school, I mean, you could call your own ball and you would just call your favorite ball, but I think now it's sort of changed. The times have changed.
Start the revolution. Bring it back.
Yeah.
Now, we're checking out some of the messages here, and please send through your messages for Andrew or Q. as a lot of the team calls you. What other nicknames do you have, Andrew?
Oh, I get Q train sometimes. But yeah, that's a pretty good one. Q knit. I like, yeah. That's what the Mark Winokur calls me, Q unit. Yeah, so it's a little cringeworthy, but gotta show him some love. So.
I gotta shout out to our twin towers, our locks, Josh and Tom Van Horn,
yes.
who are celebrating their birthdays today. Should
Yeah,
we sing them happy birthday?
I'm not doing that.
I don't know. Okay, yeah, we're not doing
All right, we're not doing it, but you guys will get the vibe. Hey, you never know, due to copyright, they might pull the stream down. But happy birthday. They are turning 39 today. No, just kidding. It's only 30. Yeah, it's all right. Scotty got the same message. Congratulations, boys. Happy birthday. Beautiful day to have a birthday. Wonder if they're stuck in the same house right now.
Oh, I don't think they are.
No. Now, Q, we're going to get a lot of questions about the mullet, so let's just get them out of the way.
Sure, let's go.
What's it called? Has it got a name?
It doesn't. Usually I'll get my mom to cut it, actually, so she does a good job with that. But I've been sort of playing it. No one's seeing me right now, so I've sort of been playing around with it myself, and it's a lot harder. So like the people that are cutting their hair at home are doing a really good job, because cutting your own hair is pretty tough. And so yeah, that's there's no name to it.
I love that your mum cuts your mullet. That is just adorable.
Oh yeah, no, it's unreal. She does a good job. Saves some money too, eh? So.
Yeah, mine used to take care of my rat's tail. Scotty remembers those days back from way back when in Canberra, in Australia, where the glorious 13-inch rat's tail down like that.
Oh, nice. I didn't. Mine wasn't that long, but I had one of those in high school. Those were good.
Yeah, mine's still in my mother's drawer at home. I visit it every couple of years and check in on it.
It was a bad look, mate. It was a bad look, but we're loving your look, Q, and it sounds like the fans really do too. And perhaps tell us a bit about your history in rugby. You played for the Barbarians, correct?
Yeah, for Aurora. So I played for Aurora, and then sort of, I guess, went through the ranks with Ontario, like a couple of guys on our team have, and then was fortunate enough to play with the Blues, and then that turned into the Ontario Arrows, and here we are, the Toronto Arrows.
But you're a young fella, right? You're 23?
Yeah, 23, yeah. Turning 24.
Already played at a World Cup, so that's impressive as well.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, that was one of the best memories I'll ever have in my life. I mean, it was insane. I was so fortunate to be there. Yeah, it was crazy.
Now, there's somewhat of an infamous video of you that's been posted on YouTube and I think Twitter of at the end of a game, teams will do a jersey swap, and the Springboks game, you had a jersey that you swapped with the other team. Do you just want to talk us through that?
Yeah, so Schlock Brits, honestly, like hats off to him. He's a great guy, like one of the nicest, like truest guys I've ever met. And he wanted to trade jerseys, and I don't know what he was wearing, but I think he was wearing like a medium or a large, and I was wearing a double XL, and it looked bad because it just was not getting on me. And yeah, some people took advantage of that, obviously. So yeah, whether I'm proud about it or not, it is what it is, and there was some funny chirps, like I guess I'd never seen the movie, but it was like less weights, more agility. It was a quote or something from some movie. So that's been sort of my motivation running through my mind as we come into the summer months. Less weight, more agility.
Well, we're not going to say anything because we have nothing to talk about here, but it was a funny little moment for the fans, and I'm sure you can always look back on when you think about starting against the Springboks in a World Cup game, which is pretty impressive.
It was, that's crazy. The eventual, obviously, world champions. So.
And when you walk out onto that field in that arena, how do you calm the nerves?
And part of that is hoping for the whistle with a little
nice little run there by you, by the way.
Thank you. I don't even know for me personally if there's like time to have nerves. It happened all so quick. I wish I was back there still doing it. yeah, it happened so fast that, you know, like these past 40 days, like in quarantine are so slow, and that World Cup felt like it was just, it happened in 3 days sort of thing. So I don't know if there's time to have feelings and nerves for me. So.
We have a question here from one of our fans, one of our great fans, Karen, and she says, Q, when is the next podcast coming out, and who will the guest be?
Firstly, Karen, thanks for your question. Thanks for tuning in. It's awesome to see our fans still engaging with us, and that's great. And just the support and love's awesome. And so I actually dropped one today. I don't know if Karen saw, but I dropped a podcast with Mr. Taylor Adams today. And yeah, the taser. And so, yeah,
I gave it a real spin then.
And then so yeah, I don't know. I think we'll move on to. It's tough in this time, especially. I mean, I've thought of having one because I know I want Tommy De La Vega on and Fergie too. It's tough down where Fergie lives because, you know, there's no really it's pretty concrete jungle down there. So I think maybe with Tommy we'll get on a nice trail or something, and we can maybe set up a little podcast date out there.
Now this is the Flat Top podcast, which with those who don't know yet, got to get on that. Where can they catch the Flat Top podcast? On all good sites?
Yeah, so pretty much everywhere. iTunes and Spotify would be the big two. Those are about 90% of my viewers listen. There's probably only five listeners, so. But other than that, there's like Breaker and pretty much I think there's like 9 really big sites. So all 9 sites you can get them on, and yeah, it's all right. You know, it gives a little insight on what some of the guys are doing, and yeah, I just hope people enjoy it for what it is.
It's a bit of mix of both your worlds, like hobbies and also the team as well. And you've had many of the other players in there. There's a 𝐓𝐡𝐞 episode as well. It's got a great title.
Yeah. Don't you know him from New Brunswick or something like that? Because he's just.
Is that how you start a fight? Is that how you start a fight in Canada? Don't you know I'm from New Brunswick?
Yeah, I think so. No, yeah, Cole just likes to let everyone know where he's from, sort of thing. So yeah, it's good. There's a good. You know, everyone's pretty similar in terms of like the way they play, and like that's what makes us get along. But off the field, like there's different guys, right? And everybody's got a different personality. They're all great personalities. So I sort of like jumping into getting to know guys that type of way. So.
And we got another question here. This one's come in via YouTube, and thank you everyone for sending through the questions and having patience with our setup today. It got there in the end. This one is, what do you miss most about not being able to play rugby right now?
Wow, it's a great question, and I've talked about this with, I forget who it was with, but anyways, it's more just no, it was Dan Moore that I was chatting with about. It's more just Tuesday, Thursdays, even Wednesdays. Like my motivation to get up was like to go to the gym and sort of see the guys, because I really don't hang out with many. Not that we don't have time, but we got a pretty condensed schedule, so there's really no time to hang out with other friends outside of rugby. Sometimes there is, but I think it's just like going to work with the boys, waking up, going downtown, seeing everybody. Hey, how's it going? Like that's some of the best part of my days. And then, like on Tuesdays, you're going to see him the next day. And then Wednesday, you're going to see him the next morning. And then you got a Friday flight and then a game on Saturday. So and that hasn't happened for me and for any of us in 40 days now. So that's probably what I miss the most, I'd say. Just being able to see the boys.
When you do travel, you spend a lot of time on the road. Do you bunk with the same person? Do you have your own room, or do they team you up with people to build that strength in the team?
Yeah. So originally it would just stay forwards and stuff, and then I liked what happened this year. This year it was like a little mix between forwards and backs. So. And there's where you find some personalities, right? Like some guys that are very particular and whatnot. So I like when it's the forward and the back together, because Exactly, right? Because like when forwards and backs will split, like we'll do our lineouts, they'll run their back plays. You spend a lot more time with obviously the forwards if you're a forward, and back with if you're a back. So when you get to actually spend some quality time with the back, it's nice.
Bit like the odd couple, perhaps, having a back and a forward in the same place. I'm sure there's all sorts of hijinks that you get up to.
Yeah, exactly. I had, who did I have this year? I had Leo. Leo was a good one, Leandro. And I had Danny Moore. Danny Moore was good as well. So no complaints from me, but and it gives you a break. It gives you a break too. Like some of the big boy forwards, they snore a lot, and I'm one of them, so I can't. Beggars can't be choosers.
They use more towels.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we're getting pretty close to the line here. Tell us about your role, in this play or a play of this style when you're getting close to the try line.
I think I actually just got snubbed back there, so that doesn't look too good on me. But I'm more just getting in position. I'm just like a ball carrier type of thing, and just put my head down and try and break through a wall, and then from there we'll break into some expansive game. I mean, our backs are so dangerous. They could do like we're seeing right there, and they're just so creative and whatnot. And we're so fortunate to have such a good back line. So forwards do the hard yards, and then the backs get it and they shine, which I have no problem seeing.
Q, a question from another fan, Stu. He asked, which players or teams have been the most challenging to play? And he said either for the Arrows or Canada.
Wow. I'll answer. I guess statistically, for us, Glendale's been a tough spot because of the altitude. I guess if you consider the first game as an anomaly, we still lost in the snow. It did happen, but that's been a tough game for us. I will say San Diego. I mean, San Diego, I guess both games we've been down at half, and my personal favorite team to play against, just because of how competitive they are, is obviously Seattle. And we've played, have we had 4 games against? We've probably had 4. I think we've had 4 games against them. So that's probably the most competitive team, the hardest team to play against, just because I think we know they're going to get up for the game as much as they know we're going to get up for the game. So it's always a great battle.
Probably fair to say that South Africa was the toughest team you played at a national level.
In terms of now nationally, yes, South Africa. They were, one of the things I learned just from being there was just always having my head on a swivel and whatnot, and just always being ready. They're just so smart. Like, that's all I could really say to attest to it. They're great. And the All Blacks, right? Those guys are in the same field of play. They're both amazing teams.
We've got another question here from one of our fans, James. And he says, at any level of rugby, which hooker do you look up to?
So personally for me, as I was just starting to get in the game, Ray Barkwell was one of them. Sorry, James. Thanks for your question. I'll thank you first. I appreciate it. And so Ray Barkwell was one of them. Just someone he was always the man. I felt just sort of playing how I envision myself to play, put my head down and whatnot. And then on an international level, I'm a big fan of Rory Best. He's one of them. I find he just plays a set piece so well, and he's such a humble guy. And then Malcolm Marks is another who I had a chance to meet, fortunately, at the World Cup. Just sort of because he was 2-3 years older than myself, so I sort of had that dream of sort of chasing his talent, and using that to sort of motivate me. So yeah, those would be my 2 favorite, or two idols to look up to internationally, and then Ray within Canada.
And talking about hookers, what would you tell young players who are playing the position of hooker and want to advance their game?
Yeah, so I think
the
most
important. Sorry, question from Mark.
Oh, thanks, Mark. So I think that's a good question, because I played fullback actually in U16. So I was a fullback, and then I sort of moved to flanker, and then it was like, okay, you're front row. Usually people are front row and they disperse outward. I got put into the front row, which I don't mind. And so I would say for hooker, throwing. That's if you're gonna be like a world-class hooker, I think working on your throwing is the most important thing. No one throws enough, and you can only get better and better. So.
And we got to thank all our fans who are really coming through with the questions. Everyone on YouTube, thank you very much. And Facebook, your messages, we end up reading them and they come through as well. We got a question here from Brock, who says he's got to get one question in. Brock, the communications manager for the Toronto Arrows and a valued part of this team. Is there any better soil out there than what Holland Landing, Ontario has to offer?
No, honestly, there isn't. So I'm a geography major, and the Holland Marsh is the most fertile soil in the world. Everybody, whenever I say that, all the boys are on me, like, oh yeah, especially right Cole's like, no, New Brunswick and whatever. But I'm telling you, the Holland Marsh is the most fertile soil in the world. It is. I'm a geography major. That's the one takeaway I got from my degree.
I thought it was a question about maybe that's a football pitch or something. That was a really good one, but no, it's actually the quality of the soil, the fertility of the dirt. That is
carrots, beets.
Now we should note here, Andrew, that you were just substituted from this game. Now, don't spoil the ending of this story, but what was your sort of thinking at this point? Were you dirty that you got subbed off? Where was your head at?
Oh, obviously, all of us want to play 80 and stuff as hard as it is, but I mean, Steve's probably one of the hardest guys to tackle on the team. So, like, I'm confident that him coming in, he's at this point, he's going to do a better job than I am if I'm tired. Right, we've been up against a big San Diego side all game, so I know Steve. And look, there's the impact, right? There's the
literally within seconds of you exiting the field,
right? So, and you know what? That probably came from somewhere where Steve hit a rock and whatnot. So, yeah, of course upset, but I know that when roles are reversed too, and he's starting, I'm coming off the bench. He's just such a good guy to play with. We get along so well. So yeah.
And we should compliment Paddy on that pass that he gave Leandro. A great cutout pass there and put him right in the hole, and then he finished with real skill. That was a great pass from our earlier guest.
Yeah, I'm gutted. I won't be able to play with Paddy this year, and Windsor, Sean Windsor, and even Tommy Van Horn and whatnot. Just because, and Mike Smith, all the boys that were sort of our home-based guys. It's too bad because these are the best times when we're at home, when we're training at home and whatnot. So what can you do?
I think of any kick we've seen so far from Sammy Malcolm, if he's going to miss one, this might be the one that he misses. It's a tough kick. It's from the right-hand side.
Yeah.
It's windy down there too. It all sort of funnels right between the stands, as we've seen in the past.
Stretch the lead here.
Oh, that is some rugby 20 straight to
yeah, he's good. Has someone said that before? He is so good. My favorite, because the guy's so humble, my favorite was we were in Austin and he had a kick almost, probably even more on the touchline, more towards the touchline than that. And this guy's heckling him, and Sammy just puts it right down the middle and sort of waves at him like, "Thanks a lot, mate."
Our plan is just to show all these highlights and never have him on the show. So, Sam, don't get excited anytime soon. You're too far away, mate. The internet can't handle it. No, we'd love to have you on the show at some point. This is really a turning point in the match. Another big kick by Sammy the Boot, moving us up the field. This is some of the best rugby we've had the chance to take a look back. This 60 minutes to the 80-minute mark. We talked last week with the players about where does the energy come from at this point in the game? It's all adrenaline, or is this what you train for?
Yeah, sorry, let me watch this here. Okay, yeah. So I think at this point you almost don't have even obviously you're worried about the clock, but you're just see all the boys grinding with you. You're just gonna grind, and so that's when an effective bench like we have at any point, right? No matter who's in the 23, is so important. And like bench roles are huge. Some guys just love being on the bench in terms of that fact where they can come in and make such a big impact. So it's probably a little bit of both, Elliot, in terms of adrenaline and whatnot. So
and the crowd, the home crowd advantage.
oh
that
yeah,
you
oh
haven't
yeah,
had for a while. Like, how big is that at this moment?
oh yeah, it just makes it like that much more to fight for. Like when it gets loud and stuff, and it's different when it's loud when like you make a hit versus like when you're playing away and it's loud because someone made a line break sort of thing. So yeah, it was amazing playing at Lamp, New York, and like they said, like Carps had said, come 2021, it's gonna be that much better. So
Andrew, what is it like to play at Lamport Stadium?
oh, I think there's nothing like it, right? You got the skyline of the city and whatnot. It's relatively easy getting down there in the morning, which is good for me, and it's just a good vibe around it in the city. You got the King Street behind it and whatnot. I really enjoy it. I mean, I wish the field was like fully rugby and whatnot in terms of the lines, but beggars can't be choosers, so we'll take what we can get, right?
Exactly.
Well, that's a quiz question for you. Do you know the 3 sports that all have their their lines painted on that field?
Yes, that's rugby league and for the Wolfpack, and then the soccer.
There's one more too.
There's a semicircle right there. That's too far to be lax, is it? Is that field hockey?
It is field hockey,
Yeah.
correct.
As Peterson crashes over the line. And takes it back to San Diego. We've got a message here from Derek Brissett. Hope I'm saying that right. Don't worry, I've been murdering Canadian surnames for 10 years now. Leandro Levis, and Uruguayan ones too, wasn't originally in the lineup for this game. After Detroit's injury, Parfrey moved from the reserves to inside centre, and Levis replaced Parfrey in the reserves. This guy's an encyclopedia. Thank you for your input on that. James is hoping they hit the Peterson hits the streetcar here. See how we go. Oh, how we missed the streetcars.
I miss the beer garden more than the streetcar.
Gather a peek. You mentioned the nearby office buildings. I'd be charging admission premium for those seats.
Some good banter from the commentators here. When they were...
That's awesome.
And he has himself to thank for the favorable.
Is there a hill, like a slight... I've walked on Lamport Stadium before, Andrew, but it seems like there's a bit of a hill in the middle of the field for water runoff or something like that. Is that difficult to play on?
There might be, but no, not relatively. It's actually it's a nice turf. I enjoy it. I mean, that might be a different response. Some people might be surprised with my response for how much we hit and whatnot on that, but I enjoy it. It's not bad at all.
Yeah, they did put a lot of work into it. It used to basically be concrete painted green, but now it's a lot softer. So I assume it's a lot easier on the bones after a big match.
We've had some fans apparently saying, Q, that you have a lovely voice for radio. I'm not sure what that means. Whether you take that as a compliment or an insult, but
well, he didn't say he had a face for radio. He said he had a great voice for radio, so that's a full compliment.
It is. Well, you can tell he has a podcast.
Yeah, is there a post? You're so early in your career, but a post-career broadcasting, career, an option you think at that point, or will it all be something to do related to your hard studying with your geography degree?
There could be. Honestly, I enjoy chatting in terms of like having someone beside me, obviously with my podcast, but I think just like watching sports and whatnot, I really would definitely be the color commentator because I don't really stay on topic well. But
sounds familiar.
Like I love.
That's Elliot in our relationship, by the way.
Like I love the NBA and whatnot, and hockey and rugby, of course. So I would love commentating any of those games. That would be ideal. Who knows? Like I couldn't fit in with the pros, but it's a great it's a great career path.
You must get noticed when you go out with a few of the boys to an event and you're just marginally larger than everybody else in the room. Do people come up and ask you what you do, or when there's a few of you there in the same spot at once?
Well, yeah, before I would sort of go to like, oh, I'm a student, but I guess now that I've graduated, I just say like I play rugby and whatnot. I don't really get into it being like it's my career, but I don't really get into that. I just say, oh, I play rugby and enjoy it, whatnot, and yeah, it's good. It's most of my buddies are like engineers, so as soon as they say that, they get the spotlight, and and I sort of shy off. But yeah.
So this is a really tense part of the game here. The Arrows are down by 3 points, and how long to go is there? I think about 5 minutes, El?
Yeah, 4.5.
Yep.
Yeah, so what's the team, what are the tactics the team's going through at this point, Andrew? Clearly everyone's tired, but you're trying to get that win.
Yeah, I just keep doing what we're doing is work. Unfortunately, obviously that 16th defender in the sideline is taking advantage of us, but I think we're just comfortable doing what we're doing, and we know we're gonna open the floodgates at one point. So,
albeit you are running out of time here.
Yeah.
We have one unhappy fan who didn't get to see Nate knock the chair over when he got sent off. It's a shame it didn't make this version.
That's the scrum half for the Legion, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
He got sent off.
Yes, this ref was giving the Legion a bit of a hard time with the yellow cards. He gave out 3 in this game, Andrew. Do you think that was justified?
I guess I won't go into that. That answer.
If you're San Diego, you have to be able to play cleanly here.
Just like Patty's comment in terms of he's a good ref he's given us, so he's.
Yeah, no more ref questions, Scott.
Well, we should note he was an Australian as well, so we'll we won't say anything too bad about it.
They're a tricky bunch because you can't understand what they say half the time. All right, so
Andrew, we might get you. Yeah, talk us through this next couple of minutes here, because this was ultimately the defining moment in the game. You're off the field, but you've got some new guys on in the scrum here. Sort of talk us through this next couple of minutes here.
Yeah, so I think we elect to scrum here, and we're confident in our scrum, and we know it's going to be powerful and whatnot. So. And we're going for it. I mean, we don't want to. We're up a man down, and we'd rather not get the ball back in our own end after a penalty kick. So we're quite content going for the 5, and then that's an automatic 7, I guess, if Sammy's kicking.
But that's a very ballsy call, though, isn't it? Not to tie the game, at least. I thought that was pretty brave. Who makes that call?
Honestly, I think Dan will look to us at that point, and if he knows a scrum could be on the menu. See, this was a nice tactic here. I don't think if that guy was actually injured, and they bring Paddy Ryan back on. I don't know what the actual call was there, but I remember seeing that from the bench, and there was definitely some question marks. But yeah, if the scrum's going, Dan will sort of look to us and how do you boys feel, and that's like he's so open about that. It's great. Like he's not a sort of a one-man call. He's looking for options. So.
We'll just give this some air and let you add your comments where you like here, given this moment in the game.
Yeah,
after this scrum pack.
Yeah, the three up front are great right now, and Steve, Patty, and Cole. They're 3. I think after Rob Brower, the oldest guy in our forward pack in our front row was Morgan Mitchell at 25 or something like that. So these 3 right here are just young talent. They do a pretty good job.
In Ferguson, your scrum half for the Arrows now. 5 meters away from pay dirt.
Like they brought Paddy Ryan back in. That's an excellent job. Oh, this is so intense. I love it.
Francis was the first leg of it. Arrows are in, and for a 3rd time today.
That's Stevie putting it down. There's a great picture of that. Steve's putting it down, and Cole's coming over the top with his mouth just wide open. And, oh yeah, that's great. That's awesome.
And I said before, Andrew, didn't want to ruin the end of that story, but you were substituted for the man who scores the winning try. How does that make you feel on the bench?
Hey, I'm celebrating as much as everybody else.
He's a team player.
Yeah, he's one of the hardest guys to tackle, honestly. Steve just runs so hard. And that's exactly what happened there.
And how many tries did you score during the 2019 season, Andrew?
Only one. One solo. I don't even remember what game it was, honestly. But I had a decent run in San Diego. I thought it was going to dot it down, and then I was honestly inches short, which is too bad. But recycling the
a longer mullet, you might have made it.
Yeah. I'm comfortable with recycling the ball and letting things go from there.
Well, what a great way to finish the game for the Arrows, almost at time.
2 minutes to be played.
I mean, that must have, if you look back at this season, Andrew, the San Diego Legion only lost 3 regular season games, and 2 of them were to the Arrows. So you guys clearly had the wood on them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just the way it happens. I guess we lost 2 to Seattle, and we dropped 2 to NOLA, sort of thing. And there's always been those like rivalries where one team is always on top. But this, no doubt, they were not easy wins. We had to earn all of our tries, so as you can see right there. So yeah, credit to them. They were fun to play against.
First they need the ball. Toronto with it. Waiting to hear time is run out before they send this one out into touch and the celebrations begin. That being said, can't commit any mistakes, no errors, no penalties.
What's his technique called? Pretty sort of
wasting time, I think.
Has it got a name? Like,
I think every team's got their own sort of play call, and yeah, it's more just like pretty much. I think there's a couple backs that like get in the mix there, honestly. So.
What a win! Our first match at Lamport Stadium.
Had gone 6 matches unbeaten. Their last loss at home to the Arrows. Looking to avenge that loss instead.
Double hand up Sally, love that.
Crowd going wild.
An incredible
awesome.
match.
That was a great crowd for the first game at Lamport.
Yeah, the fans deserve that 100%.
If you were there at the game, let us know.
With the
we'll give you a shout out.
The final 90 seconds to give them the win.
Amazing win.
Arrows not just spoiling other people's plans, but perhaps making their own plans for the postseason.
And that helps solidify Lamport Stadium as your home field, right?
When we come back, we'll have a chance to talk to man of the match.
Yeah, no, just with like as proud as the team is, we're happy to see the fans are happy and whatnot. So that's awesome.
Well, that's the end of the match. We thank you so much, Andrew 𝐓𝐡𝐞, for joining us today. What a fantastic, chat we've had with you. And please tell us your message for the fans. Because we're all hanging for some rugby, and this is about the closest we can get right now. I'm sure I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks guys for having me on. And I mean to the fans, hang in there and keep supporting us, and we appreciate it. I'm glad that we're doing this so we can sort of give back as much as we can. And honestly, I know I'm speaking for myself, but I know I'm covering a lot of the guys when I say this, that we're really excited for 2021, and we can't wait to win a couple more games in front of you. So,
well,
and make sure you plug your podcast one last time so we can all listen in, please.
Yeah, if you're looking for a little bit of company between the boys and I, it's at the Flat Top is my podcast, so it's pretty good. Yeah, hope you enjoy it if you listen.
Check the links on Facebook and YouTube. We'll post them up. And Andrew, we'd love to have you back for another match. It's been absolutely fantastic to get to know you a little bit and share this really, really special moment in Toronto Arrows history. So thank you very much for joining us.
Guys, thanks a lot for having me. If you ever need me, just give me a call.
Will do. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Take care.
Well, thanks very much to Andrew for joining, and for everybody at home for the Classics episode 2. We really appreciate you joining us for this really, really special match. You can probably catch yourself there in the stands cheering on the team. Scott, your final thoughts?
I just thought it was a fantastic comeback from the Arrows. The first half, they conceded a couple of tries against the run of play, but to score a try, particularly from a hooker in the last few minutes, what a way to win and what a high that really just set the Arrows up for the rest of that season. So really looking forward to dipping into the Arrows archive in some further ways over the coming weeks, because there's a lot of exciting matches to look at. So looking forward to that.
Gives them the 4 points for the win. San Diego will manage 1 point as they leave Ontario with a loss bonus. Lincoln Rose, Kit McConaughey with you. More importantly,
𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐂𝐤𝐬𝐬. I'm sure there's a few tequila shots that were had after the game. Maybe not by the players, at least officially, but hopefully by the fans.
Oh, 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐂𝐤𝐬𝐬. Well, look, thanks everybody for joining us. As I mentioned earlier, we have this wonderful video that was made by a friend of mine named Kyle, and it's he's created this group called World Camp, and World Camp is 20 musicians who are all in isolation right now, and they've all added something to this song. Now, what's really beautiful about this is that the video has been shot in Toronto with the empty streets. So check it out. We'll put up the link and you can test it. But thank you to all our rugby fans for joining us today on the Classics. We appreciate your patience and we appreciate your support. We'd love to get your messages, and honestly, from someone who speaks to everyone outside of the broadcast, everyone's really excited about this. It's really nice to relive these moments. It's really nice to connect about rugby and keep the chatter up. So if there's someone you can bring along to, invite to join you next week, please do. We'd love to show some more people the wonderful sport of rugby union. And my thanks to Scott again for today for your wonderful insight.
Well, thank you, El, and we look forward to more bringing the rugby community together over the coming weeks. And thank you to all the Arrows players and coaches, the Parfreys, Aaron Carpenter, and Andrew Quattrin today for coming on, and of course, Bill Webb as well.
Of course, Bill. Yes, thank you very much. So we'll leave you right now with this video from World Camp. Thank you for joining us.
This is